Hey, Husker fans, welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson of HuskerBigRed.com. With me, as always, is my co host, Danny Gillette of thegreatcornholio.org. And we are here to discuss Nebraska's 26-9 loss to Illinois. It was kind of there was a lot of hope going into this matchup, and then it kind of ended with a thud. So we're gonna offer up some gut reactions, some takeaways. Talk about any the head coaching job and how this is going to affect it. Make sure so you don't miss any of our content in the future. Like this video, comment, also for the replay, and also subscribe to our channel. We greatly appreciate it here at HuskerBigRed.com and the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. And I'll bring in my co-host at this point, Danny. It's been a little bit over 24 hours now. So just how are you? What are your initial reactions to the game on Saturday? You with me, Danny?
I am. Are you with me?
Yeah, it looks like we got froze for a second. But anyways.
But so what was the question?
So just what are your gut reactions here to the loss on Saturday?
There has been no development outside of the starters, and even some of the starters are questionable. You look at some of the quarterback play. Once Casey left, it was absolutely horrible. And now I know, again, a lot of it goes back to the line, but this team needs to develop in a lot of positions, and it's been pretty clear that we've harped on the depth for the entire season, but this game kind of just showed in real time. I mean, the backup quarterbacks were not very good. I mean, the offensive line wasn't very good. Even the defense got gashed. I mean, there were some positives, and I know you'll get into them, but to me, this just signaled how long or how far rather Nebraska has to go in order to just develop their players.
Yeah, I mean, I do get that. I get that takeaway, but I mean, at the same time, I felt like the defense was outside of the pass rush. I mean, the pass rush is terrible. I do feel sorry for whoever gave O'Shawn Mathis that NIL money because it wasn't worth it. He sucks. Sorry, but he's not good. And Garrett Nelson didn't show up. So that's why Tommy DeVito went 20-22, and barely looked, pressured. But I mean, really, the defense gave up less than 400 yards, and they even had, and they were put in a lot of really bad spots in the second half and only gave up 6 points. I mean, so it's just the offense keeps putting them in terrible positions. I mean, the game basically you knew it was over once Casey wasn't coming back in. And I mean, we didn't know it was over, but then once you saw Chuba Purdy throw a pass, then you knew it was over. I mean, my God, that guy cut his scholarship. Seriously. You need to say, Chuba, here's the transfer portal. Go somewhere else, because unless he's hurt or something, I mean, he does not look like a college quarterback to me. He was like shot putting the football. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, even just simple, like take, the tight end goes to flat to the sideline, a 2-yard pass. He couldn't hit it. It was unbelievable. And I thought it was a huge mistake to not play Smothers. I would have kept him in the game, because this is where it doesn't make any sense to me, right? They're only at halftime, they're down by 11 points. And after the game, Mickey says that, well, we had to put Chuba in there to pass the ball. No, you didn't. I mean, you don't have to abandon the run when you're down by 11 points. That made no sense to me. And the fact that they never went back to him, and the fact that both of those guys just looked totally unprepared to play. Like, I'm sorry, but it was not a good reflection of Mickey Joseph as the head coach. This team wasn't ready to play. The backups weren't ready to play. And I mean, I do like Mickey. I want him to stick around, but I think it's really not looking like he's going to be the head coach next year now.
I don't think so either, but it's also a reflection of, I think, Mark Whipple's play calling. I mean, he has abandoned the run at times this year, and he kind of did so again on Saturday. But it's interesting because, when he first came here, one of the things that I wrote about, and I'm sure you wrote about as well, was that his quarterbacks were more stationary. They weren't necessarily runners. They were more stationary. I think it was a pro system in terms of the style, pro style quarterback. And, I'd love to see his quarterbacks move out of the pocket a little bit. But, when we said that, Mark Whipple quarterbacks or the players he recruited or whatever don't run out of the pocket, I mean, that is definitely true because, I think even Casey could have run at times on Saturday, and he just, for some reason, these quarterbacks don't like to run, with the exception of Logan Smothers. But that's where you saw kind of the Scott Frost type of play style and play calls come into play. And I'm not a fan of running the quarterback 40 times a game, but there are moments where running the quarterback is ideal, especially in college football. And Saturday, the quarterback out of the pocket, and try to make things happen. I remember, I think it was Smothers who had close to a first down at the end of the first half, and we thought maybe he would take over at the start of the second half, but we just didn't see that.
Yeah, and it was weird. Mickey told the sideline reporter that it was going to be Smothers, and then they came out with Purdy, and
I think that's a Whipple decision because he recruited Purdy. I don't know if Mickey...
Yeah, but you're the head coach. You need to tell him who to play. I mean, at the end of the day, if you think Smothers is the better guy to play, then it's on him. It's on him who plays. It's his decision. So, I mean, he's the head coach, and I don't know. It sounded like to me that Purdy, whoever was the backup, I don't know. It sounded like neither of them was getting reps. I don't know. Mickey made a statement about that, but I don't know. It just was a thud. You can't be in a situation where one injury loses you the game. I mean, Tommy DeVito's missed time for Illinois, and they didn't lose a game because their backup quarterback was in. You know what I mean? So it's really
Chase Brown. There's that too, but
yeah, but I mean, it's disappointing that Nebraska was literally right there, and if Casey doesn't get hurt on that play, I mean, they have a legit chance to win if he doesn't throw another interception, but or if Premier Johnson catches that pass right before that.
I remember that one. Yeah.
It's a constant, it's missed tackles on defense. I mean, it's simple stuff. On the first drive, it was a couple of missed tackles and then a touchdown. And then, you drop passes. The first drive for Nebraska, they moved down into Illinois territory, throw an interception. They move down to Illinois territory again, kick a field goal. It's just when you haven't beat a ranked team in 6 years, I mean, these are the simple things that you've got to tackle. You've got to catch the football. And when you have opportunities to score, you can't turn the ball over. I mean, you can't turn the ball over. I don't care if you're Ohio State and you're playing Purdue. If you turn the ball over 4 times, I mean, you're going to hurt your chances of winning. And so that's basically where it was with Nebraska. I understood trying Purdy, but I really think it was a mistake not to try Smothers once in the second half. I mean, even in the fourth quarter, it was a 2-score game. I mean, all you need is a drive, and to just throw Chuba out there and basically give. I mean, frankly, I wrote this yesterday, but with him at quarterback, I think Illinois could have just given Nebraska the ball at the 50-yard line every drive of the second half, and I don't think Nebraska would have got any points on the scoreboard. I'm being 100% honest.
Yeah, he looked completely lost, and that
was one of the worst performances I've ever seen from a Nebraska quarterback ever.
Yeah, and he was like I remember he was like the 5th overall rated quarterback at one point in time in recruiting, and he just didn't get the job done. So
yeah, transfer portal, get in there, Purdy.
I mean, maybe there's a lot of people.
They need to push him in there. They need to push him in there and say, hey, go. You're never going to play here. We have to recruit over you. Because that point, if Casey comes back, I mean, they got to recruit somebody else. I mean, hopefully Smothers will transfer, but my goodness, that is just horrible.
Well, if I'm, there was a big recruiting of visitors this Saturday, and some may look at it as, Nebraska didn't perform well. These guys are going to come here. If I'm one of those recruits, I'm going to say, you know what, I can step in here immediately and get instant playing time, particularly on the line, defensive line as well. Both lines, who cares? Both lines. And,
D-line is just as everybody talks about the offense. The defensive line is just as bad. I mean, they are just as bad. O'Shawn Mathis, Garrett Nelson, Caleb Tanner, Ty Robinson, they barely make any plays, especially against any legitimate teams. So, yeah, I would say the defensive line is right there as just as big a need as the offensive line. I think they're just as bad.
Honestly, I'd say maybe even more than the offensive line, but I don't think so. Looking at it now, I think offensive line is the key priority. But when you looked at what Tommy DeVito did on Saturday, he had a clean pocket, I'd say 95% of the time, where he could just stand and pick apart the defense. It was kind of like in the opener against Northwestern, and the quarterbacks just have time to
Yeah.
grab a sandwich, get some popcorn, get a drink, and then make their throw. It's absolutely
Yeah.
ridiculous. I mean, these were
If
guys that were heralded, like Mathis. You know,
yeah.
he was thought to be a big addition from the transfer portal this offseason, and he's been okay, but he hasn't been that pass rushing beast that we thought he could be. And
Yeah.
it's just pathetic because say what you want about the secondary, but good defenses have a good pass rush, which makes the secondary ultimately better as well. And you know, it's asking a lot of the secondary, and quite honestly, I don't think the secondary played awful on Saturday, but I mean, it was just that was a well executed football game by Illinois.
Yeah, but it's, I was thinking like the quarterback, if they didn't play that on turf, if it was a grass stadium, he wouldn't have any stains, in his uniform because he just never got hit. But, at the same time, it, excuse me, gives me hope, I guess, in the sense that, Illinois went and found Tommy DeVito in the transfer portal. I mean, it's not, you can find that type of quarterback and you can build your team that kind of way. I mean, Illinois was terrible. I think they won like 3 games 2 years ago. And now, I mean, they're a playoff contender. I mean, if they win out, literally this team controls its own destiny for the college football playoff. If they would have to beat Michigan and Ohio State, obviously, which is going to be a huge task, but that's a tough game. If Michigan's not ready, this team can beat them. And I think this team could beat Ohio State too, because you look at what Ohio State, how they lost last year was the running game. They couldn't stop Michigan's running game, and Michigan had a really good defense. Well, Illinois has a damn good defense, especially in the secondary. That's maybe the best secondary I've definitely seen Nebraska play all season, but maybe any team in college football. I mean, they're so well coached. Their defense, they don't seem to make any mistakes, and then Chase Brown, they're just going to run the ball at you. I mean, they don't care. They'll give that guy the ball 40 times. So this is a really good Illinois team. And a couple years ago, they were really, really bad. So I do think it shows if you get the right coach in there, things can change quickly. But that's the hard part is getting the right coach. And I'm not ready to stick the fork in Mickey yet. And I know it was a tough situation on Saturday, and he obviously it's hard to blame him for everything because he didn't recruit a lot of these players. He didn't hire these coaches, and this isn't really, he's trying to it's like if you have a really bad cook or something, and they mess up a meal, and then you get somebody who's trying to come in and fix up the mess, and some of the ingredients are wrong or some of the other ingredients are really bad, and so he's trying to make something out of something that should taste really bad, and he's making it taste better, but not good enough to make him the full-time chef, I guess, to circle up with this analogy. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I still think if they can win a couple of these last games, then he'll have a chance. But like we said, if Casey's not coming back, I don't know if that's going to happen.
And I think not just Mickey, but I think this would be a big task for any coach to come in and try to get this program to some sort of respectability. And I think it might take time, but the lack of depth was just absolutely astounding to me. It really kind of showed on Saturday, and the lack of development. It's about, well, truth be told, it's bit them, so to speak, for several years. But Saturday, I was just like, wow, like our backup quarterbacks can't even,
Complete a pass.
complete a pass. Like, I don't know, and I feel bad for Chubb. I really do, because I don't like ragging on players, but I mean, he just did not look good. I mean, he looked good during the spring game, but then again, that was against our pass rush,
And
which has also been awful. So
maybe he's hurt. I mean, I shouldn't react too poorly because maybe that's the thing is he'll come out next week and play great and make me look like a dumbass, which I'd be happy to see. I'd be happy to see him come out and throw, if he ends up playing but yeah, he did make some really nice throws in the spring game and fall camp. I mean, they talked about how he was getting like reps, but I mean, every time he's played in a game, it's been ugly. I mean, he got strip sacked for a fumble, which I mean, I understand, look, the offensive line, but you still have to protect the damn ball. And you have to know you're near your own goal line. I mean, it's just, there's no excuse to being like la da da and getting the ball stripped out. I mean, take care of the thing. That's your number one job, is to take care of the football. If you're the quarterback, the running back, whatever. So, I mean, we'll see. It's definitely going to help. If he is the starter, he's going to coach him up. But, this injury to Casey Thompson, I'm obviously no medical person. I have no idea what it was, but when he was saying there was numbness in his hand
Yeah.
and of the hit, it reminded me of when Brett Favre actually they were playing the Cowboys. This was like, a long time ago, because Brett Favre was 2007, and he went up and he got hit right in the elbow, and he couldn't come back, and he said he couldn't feel his arm. He got hit in the funny bone really hard, and he ended up being able to play the next week, I think. So I don't know if it's a similar type of injury, because they called it day to day, and I can't think of it. I'm curious what it would be, to make your hand go numb but still be a day to day injury.
Some type of nerve inflammation, maybe.
Maybe that's it. So it's like with Brett Favre, you know how bad it hurts when you're funny bone. Imagine a 240-pound guy coming at you like a truck. It's
Ugh.
so I'm wondering if if it is that type of injury, I do think he can come back. I don't know if he's going to come back this week. And man, the books already have us as a heavy underdog against Minnesota.
If I'm Casey, I don't know if I want to come back. I really don't know if I can put up with this line for 4 more games or whatever it is, but man,
against 4 really good defenses too.
Yeah, I don't know. But
yeah, it's I was encouraged some. Anthony Grant had some times where he ran well, but he just needs to learn to go north, and he's like dancing around too much. And
yeah, like on that first down play when he ran to the right instead of running forward, I thought that was.
It was like he had the he had the first down.
Yep.
It's like if you would have got 12 yards, and then he fumbled, and it just was a whole. It was ugly though, because it was like it sucked because the defense was like holding them, and they even held that field goal, and it was like 23-9, and the ESPN guys were like, "Oh, you'd think most teams would go for a touchdown," and it's like, dude, they know Nebraska. They know they already have enough points to win the game as is. Like, they're Nebraska, unless they get some type of freak touchdown, they're just not going to score. And Illinois had a good plan for Trey Palmer, but it's like, if you had Casey Thompson for 4 quarters, I don't think Trey Palmer gets 1 catch for 1 yard. I'll just say it like that. You know what I mean? I never thought he was going to get like 8 catches, but I still think if him and Casey are on the field for 4 quarters, like he finds a way to catch 1 long pass or something, but it's frustrating because when they got that touchdown, and then of course they get the point, it's just like nothing. They just cannot stack success. Like Mickey's talking about stacking successful days of practice. Like you get a touchdown and then you block the PAT. It's just kind of like I don't know. You definitely need a lot of new coaches. I'm not saying like Mickey, I want him to be part of the staff, but a lot of these other guys got to go.
Did you see there was a video circulating, maybe it was from Huskers film, but on the point after block?
Yeah, I did see
that.
The
guy just ran right by. Like, what are you doing? It's like a video game glitch. Like, what are you doing?
I don't know, man. It's like I've said it before with like Benhart and some of these guys. They're so slow out of their stance. It's unbelievable. And yeah, it's interesting, the whole Rayola. I don't think that there's any chance of getting Dylan Rayola. I really don't. I don't know. I think it's more about the younger brother Dayton, and hope. I think that they're hoping that maybe they'll see how they're recruiting him, and because I don't know. It's just, to me,
I'm just surprised he came back to campus at all after that mess.
Yeah, but you have to look at it too. His uncle's coaching on the team. You know
Not
what
for
I mean?
long, I don't think. But
well,
anyway.
Yeah, that's why they wanted to come to a game. They knew the opportunities are limited. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. It's interesting because they offered the Dayton Rayola kid, and he definitely looks like he's in middle school still. Not that he can't throw the football. I'm not saying that, but it seems like I think that that's like more the target. And I don't know if they're obviously banking on some development there, but I don't know if it's going to be a great strategy to kind of try to recruit the older brother through the younger brother. So I think you just do what you can and, try to work your way in there a little bit, but
our entire offensive line and our backup quarterbacks look like they're in middle school. So maybe it'll be a good fit by the time he rolls around.
Yeah. It's, it is hard because, I did see like Malachi Coleman tweeted something about, like trust the process and Mickey and, stuff like that. And, I do trust Mickey, but I don't know. I'm just not sure if he's going to get this job.
I want to see what he would do with a full, like with his coordinators, his staff, and crew. I really would want to see that because quite honestly, I don't think we could get much worse in terms of depth and, the cupboard being bare. So I wouldn't mind seeing that, but I also definitely see the point of view where you might want to go in a different direction as head coach. It just makes me wonder, like, what he would do if given the opportunity with a full offseason under his belt. And it's going to take more than a full offseason, I know, to fix all of this, but it just leaves me curious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get that point, and I do think that he would do a better job than Scott Frost. I mean, I think that I think he would get this team back to, winning games, being a winning program, but it depends who they can hire, I think, too. I mean, that's the other elephant in the room here is, yeah, it would be great to sit here and say, hey, let's go get Lane Kiffin or Dave Aranda, but that may not be as realistic as people want it to be. You know what I'm saying? So it could be a situation where, yeah, Trev Alberts has Dave Aranda on his list and Lance Leipold on his list and, Lane Kiffin on his, then Bill O'Brien, da. But whether those guys want to come here, I know Steve Sipple keeps mentioning him. So,
oh my gosh, no.
I feel like there's a good, I don't
No.
know. Sipple's all in on him. I don't
I
understand.
like
I get it. I don't know. I mean, I'll say this, not every time you sometimes look at hires and you think they're going to be bad, and sometimes they turn out to be good. And Bill O'Brien, he is a smart football coach. I'll say that. I do worry about him recruiting, but maybe that's why he maybe if you have him coaching the team and Mickey is like your top assistant, your top recruiter, maybe that's a situation that could work, because you are going to need to have dynamic assistants, recruiting, and that, because that's going to be the key part of this operation. I think is not only recruiting, but where Nebraska has really messed up, in my opinion, is in their evaluation of these players and talent, and kind of putting guys in. I don't care if you're getting 3 stars or 4 stars or whatever. I mean, frankly, that's nice, and those are nice things for us as fans to talk about and to kind of debate and talk about and rank players. But you, as a coaching staff, you need to be able to evaluate their film, evaluate them in person, and know that this kid can play in your program. And Nebraska, I don't think, has done a very good job of truly evaluating players and then figuring out, like you said, how to develop them once they get there, because it's a whole projection process going from high school to college. I mean, like, there's, like, for instance, I cover a lot of high school sports for my newspaper job. There's a guy that he's the all-time sack leader at the school. He's the leading sack leader in the entire state of Montana, but he's going to play college football, and he's not going to be a pass rusher. He's probably going to be like an H-back. And that's because, that staff who's evaluating him knows that if they try to play him, he just doesn't have the size or speed to be a defensive lineman. So, I mean, you can't make a square peg fit into a round hole. And it's just, I don't know exactly all the problems with Nebraska, but, they definitely need to get that recruiting stuff figured out. Maybe it would help to have a coach like, Bill O'Brien, who could evaluate talent. And I know a lot of people weren't, thrilled about Brett Bielema. And it was funny because when Scott Frost actually, after like the Georgia Southern loss, or maybe after the Northwestern loss, I was talking to a friend, and, they were talking about head coaching candidates, and the first name I mentioned was Brett Bielema. I said it last year when Illinois kicked them, like, this is the kind of coach that we need. And but you're not getting him away from there now, I don't think. Maybe I would try, but I doubt it.
If we hire Bill O'Brien, I'm out. I appreciate all what you just said, but if we hire Bill O'Brien, I'm throwing in the towel. And nope, not buying it. I mean, you look at the success he's had, even at Alabama, where fans are currently calling for his head, and he's had the cream of the crop. And so I don't know. I just don't want Bill O'Brien. That's the only candidate where I would be like, absolutely not. No, get him away from this program. But we'll see. They'll probably hire Bill O'Brien, and I'll be underwhelmed again. So
yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't think,
because that's a safe choice that the boosters and Trev would want.
Yeah, he is a safe choice. I mean, but I do think that I don't think he would have 5 straight losing seasons, though. I mean, I think he might not ever win more than like 8 games, but I do think that he would have this program winning. I mean, and he was a successful head coach for a long time in the NFL. I mean, I know you don't love him. I don't love him either, but my issue with him has always been his recruiting acumen, not his coaching acumen. I think he's a pretty good coach. I think that he's probably learned some things, under Nick Saban. I think we've seen a lot of successful, not Mel Tucker, but we've seen we've seen a lot of successful Nick Saban assistants. I had to get that joke in, but I'm there with you. But I do think if he is able to bring in like a really dynamic staff for recruiting, that maybe it could work, and maybe there would be, because my other issue with O'Brien has always been I don't think he wants to be a college head coach for a long time. I think he wants to coach in the NFL. And look, maybe that's changed. Maybe that's changed now. But my worry is that you hire him and then you have a few good seasons and then he's gone again. So my worry, I guess, with O'Brien's not that he's going to be a terrible coach, but I have questions about his ceiling and how long he would actually, stay at Nebraska. So those are kind of my issues.
I mean, my issue is that he traded DeAndre Hopkins for a bag of baseballs, and that kind of ruined all of his football acumen. Not to mention that he was working with Tom Brady, so that also helps. Seems like he's been very fortunate in the situations that he's been put in. So I don't know. He is a decent coach, but he's also had a lot of talent to work with. I mean, you get the cream of the crop at Alabama. You get Tom Brady in New England. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but it's like Mickey says though. I've never seen a good coach with bad players. So I mean, there is that part of it. I mean, he's gotten a lot of good players, but he's also gotten the best out of a lot. I mean, it's like not a lot of people were highly touting on Mac Jones before he, got his opportunities. And I mean, so really, whether it's
he's
been
kind of
Mac
struggling
Jones
right
or
now, honestly. I mean,
well,
that's probably
yeah.
not the best comparison right now.
But I mean, in college though.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about him in Alabama. Like,
Yeah.
nobody thought he was going to be a star, and he was at Alabama, and they dominated. So it's like I think we should give him some credit. But I get your points though.
I don't know.
We'll see. I don't know. I don't know how well he would recruit. I mean, he does have that NFL. I mean, it does. I think it does help, and it is somewhat a selling point when you go to high school recruits and you can say like, I've been in the NFL. I've been an NFL head coach. I'm going to build an NFL style staff. I don't know. It doesn't help you that much. I mean, look at Herm Edwards and stuff, but
Herm Edwards gets screwed though, but that's a different story.
Yeah, I mean,
he got
that was
screwed really bad.
That was the whole crazy situation. I don't know. It'll be
play to win the game.
You play to win the game, right?
And we didn't play to win the game on Saturday, I don't think. But
yeah, I don't know. It was pretty. It was just deflating because it was like you just knew they weren't going to score no matter. Like I literally was like, unless they get a pick six or like an interception or something, or just like one lucky play, they just should have started bombing it to Trey Palmer. But
by bombing it, do you mean like a 15-yard pass? Because that's about as much as we were going to bomb it on Saturday once Casey left.
Yeah.
Not that Casey left. Let me rephrase that. Once Casey was out, because he got hit hard on Saturday.
Yeah, he's got hit hard a few times, but
I feel for him. I really do.
It'll be interesting to see if he comes back, and I don't know. I feel like
Casey, I want some guarantee that they're gonna fix that line. Honestly, truthfully, because if I'm Casey, I'm not dealing with another year of that if no improvements are made.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're gonna try to improve it. I don't know how.
Bo Hewley was there, the Georgia commit, I think, on Saturday. So, I mean, step right up, Bo Hewley. We can use you. And you'll probably get instant playing time. So
he would, yeah. That recruitment is really interesting. I'm not sure what's kind of going on with there because he's been recruited or he's been committed to Georgia for a long time, and then this summer. There was, one of the recruiting experts projected him to flip to Auburn, and Auburn isn't they're basically like Nebraska right now, and they're about to fire their head coach. I mean, if there's one prediction I could make about this college football season, it's that Brian Harsin is going to get fired at some point. Like that's probably my most confident prediction in all of college football right now. So, so I don't know. It's weird to me that Georgia, I don't know if they're, not having as much contact or whatever, but I think it really comes down to how much they want him. If Georgia wants him, he's not coming to Nebraska. So like basically they can recruit him hard. Georgia, this happened to Michigan recently where there was Georgia was trying to figure out if they wanted to take another defensive back or not, and so Michigan had a really good chance at this kid who was a top 100 kid. And then Georgia's like, oh, we do want to take a fourth defensive back, and then boom, he commits to Georgia. So, if Georgia really wants Hughley, he's going to go to Georgia. But if they don't, then Nebraska probably has as good a shot as anybody, because it looks like Auburn is the other, main competitor, and they're not in a strong recruiting position right now either.
I just love how all the Georgias and the Alabamas can be like, oh, we don't want this one, but we need a third defensive back. Let's go get the number 2 quarterback in the corner in the country, and try to make that work. I wish, hopefully, maybe one day we'll get back there. I don't know, but
I don't think Nebraska
nice.
will ever be in that world. It's
a whole new ball game.
Yeah, when Donovan Edwards was being recruited, he ended up committing at Michigan, but he is a 5-star recruit. Ended up being a 5-star recruit in Ohio State. Basically, that summer, they said you either need to commit now this week, or we're just going to go to somebody else. He didn't want to commit yet, and then they went and got Travion Henderson and another top 50. So I mean, when you can give top 50 kids an ultimatum like that. Michigan had to wait till the very end and had to fight off a bunch of other teams because they just didn't push that hard. Nebraska's the same way. They're just never going to be able to look at a top 100 kid, any 4-star. They sort of did that with Ashley Williams, which I think was a mistake. But, at the same time, there's not going to ever be a point where Nebraska's like, oh, you're top 200 recruit. We'll see if we want you or not. So, it's just a different world.
I don't think, sure, there's some parallels to Michigan and Nebraska in terms of recruiting, but Michigan's also number 4 in the country right now. I think they might have moved up. I know the rankings are going to be announced, Tuesday?
Yeah.
Is it?
They are. It is. In Michigan can recruit at that level, but at the same time, Michigan does not recruit at the same level as Ohio State.
Right.
So, I think there are a lot of parallel. And like I said, with Michigan, a lot of guys that they offer are like 3-star guys, and then they eventually move them up. But it's that Michigan is so good. Jim Harbaugh knows what the hell he's doing in terms of offering players, because a lot of times there's even guys that they've offered that their assistants are like, no, we don't really think he's that good. And Jim's like, no, we're going to take this guy. And then he ends up being one of the best freshmen in their class. And even though he's ranked outside the top 1,000, it's like, no, those are the types of things that people need to remember about in recruiting, is that these coaches too have an eye for talent. And, Scott Frost didn't really have that, I guess. And Nebraska needs to find a coach who can hit on those evaluations. That's really, really important. I think for Michigan's recruiting, that's one of their best attributes, is they rarely miss on their player evaluations. Whereas Nebraska, they've missed on a lot. And when your recruiting opportunities are limited, you just can't afford to do that.
And Michigan also recruits in some of the more under-recruited areas. I know a lot of friends. I'm from Massachusetts, and I actually know a lot of friends who were teammates with guys that went to Michigan. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of there was a tight end from Massachusetts that went to Michigan. I don't know if he played much, but
he's still there. Louis Hansen is his name. Yeah.
Oh, Louis Hansen?
Yep. He's and he was a top 200 kid, actually. Just he's been a little bit injured, but yeah, there's been a few guys that have gone kind of from that area to Michigan. And then Cornelius Johnson, I believe they got out of Connecticut. Quiddy Pay was another guy, or Quiddy Pay was out of Rhode Island. So that's what I think too. Nebraska should, check out some of those areas. I think a really under-recruited area is, Nebraska's trying to get into a little more is Missouri. St. Louis, I think, is becoming like a recruiting hotbed. And man,
that's a good place for receivers, honestly.
Yeah, it'd be a good place for Nebraska to make some headway recruiting wise,
Because then you have the entire Midwest. You have Missouri, Nebraska, Iowa, and to kind of build like a pipeline or an area of the country where you can get, or at least get your foot in the door with prospects from that area. You may not be able to get them to commit, but it's always good to establish schools and relationships in certain areas, so you kind of have this radius where if you're in trouble recruiting, you kind of know, all right, I'm going here, I can maybe get success here, and let's try this out before we venture into other parts of the country that may not be so fruitful for us, like Florida.
Yeah, and Louisiana's has become kind of the successful. They've got Arnold even right now. They're recruiting Arnold Barnes and Ryan Robinson. They said he's still in communication with Nebraska. So I think from a recruiting perspective, I can't disagree with any moves that Mickey's made. I think he's absolutely doing a great job on the recruiting side of things. I mean, they had a coach. There was talk about William Watson and him possibly visiting, Virginia Tech, and Mickey had a coach up there, watching had his game last week during the bye week to kind of shore that up. So, I mean, I think it's a pretty solid accomplishment to only have one decommitment so far from this entire
Yep.
class, and you've landed Malachi Coleman. So really, Nebraska's the 2023 class is in a better spot since Scott Frost has been fired. And I think that shows how strong of a recruiter that Mickey is. But I don't know if that's going to be enough to get him the head coaching job. I think he's got to win a couple more games. I said 6-6. It's just thinking about the timeline. I don't think that he can go into that Iowa game like 4-7. You know what I mean? And beat Iowa and be 5-7 and get the job. Like, I think Nebraska that week needs to know or needs to have a pretty good idea who the head coach is or going to be, because like I said before, 2 days, after that Black Friday game, like that Monday, they need to have the press conference announcing the head coach that day. That's my feeling anyways, that Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, because I think we said this last week. The transfer portal opens on December 6th, so they need to move quickly.
That next week, yeah.
Yep, they need to move really quickly. And I think, honestly, they may have a name within the next 1 or 2 weeks just to be ready. But, we'll see what happens. I haven't really heard a ton in terms of coaching rumors or anything like that. But now we're getting to crunch time. It's October 31st. And, I always said wait until November. Well, November's starting tomorrow. So, we'll see what happens.
So who's on the top of your list now then?
Oh, that's a tough one.
You've been pretty Mickey. You've been pretty hard for Mickey the whole. Do you still want Mickey, or are you changing that?
I still would want Mickey, honestly, because I want to see what he is able to do with his own staff and, again, his own recruits. And then, number 2, I mean, Lane Kiffin, I think, would be number 2. Granted, we haven't heard much about him in Nebraska, but if we're making up lists, I think that's my 1, 2, and then Miranda would be, but it'll probably be something underwhelming. Honestly, I'm but that's not the case. Hoping it's not Bill O'Brien. I'm hoping it's somebody a little more exciting, but who knows?
Yeah, I think I'd have pretty close. I mean, I don't know. I have a tough time choosing between Dave Aranda and Lane Kiffin, which one that I would like the most, because I think that Lane Kiffin is a really dynamic recruiter, and he's a really good offensive play caller, and he is a pretty he's a proven winner. I mean, he's won at like 3 different college football programs, so I feel pretty confident in what he could do,
including FAU, which is no slouch, in a state full of good college football.
Yeah. I mean, then that program had really not a lot of history of success before he got there. And Ole Miss too was not in a good spot after Hugh Freeze got fired from that NCAA allegations, and Ole Miss had some tough times. And he's got. I mean, that's the thing is right now there's still a team that's in the playoff hunt. I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to make it. They'd have to beat Alabama and then Georgia in the SEC title game, but
easy as pie, right?
Yeah, but they're still in it, and yeah, Baylor is interesting though, because that I could see. I mean, Aranda at Baylor would make a lot of sense in the fact that he has that tie to Mickey Joseph. I'm sure he would keep Mickey Joseph on the staff. Bill Bush probably would stay on, at least I'm guessing, as the safeties coach, maybe as the defensive coordinator. I feel like Bill Bush has done a fine job, but I feel like they need to go find a guy with like an NFL mindset, because it's just, you see, I mean, Illinois kind of has that, you need guys that are going to disguise your defenses and that are going to come up with, those types of coverages that can confuse college quarterbacks, because it's like if the quarterback, some of these veteran quarterbacks can recognize it and see it, and if they know what you're going to do, then it's pretty hard to beat them. And I think that's Michigan ran into that with Don Brown, and I think Nebraska's run into that with this Eric Shenander system. So, I mean, I would not mind if Bill Bush was back with safeties or special teams, but I'd really like to see, kind of a more dynamic defensive coordinator, whether it's Kiffin or, Dave Aranda. I don't know if I don't think he'd probably be calling his own defense, but he certainly would have, a lot of handprints on how the defense would look.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see, whoever the new defensive coordinator is, like what type of style they bring to the table because, I think there's a lot of playmakers on this side of the football for Nebraska, and I understand that's probably going to change with a coaching change, additions and subtractions. But you know, it's just been a very interesting year in terms of this is a crucial point for the program. This is a crucial point for Trev Alberts, and there is a lot weighing on whoever this next hire is. There's a lot weighing on the coach for immediate success because let's face it, the fans aren't patient here. There's a lot for Trev Alberts. There's a lot at risk for him because this is now his hire, as we talked about last week, and there's that piece of it, and then there's also a lot for outside factors such as UCLA and USC coming into town. That changes the game completely. So this is a very crucial time period for Nebraska football. And at the end of the day, besides BOB, I don't care who they hire, but they have to do this right, and they have to honestly make sure that it's a quick home run, because if they don't, they can get left behind pretty quickly. Some may say they are already left behind, but if they fail at this hire, whoever it is, whether it be Mickey, whether it be somebody else, it's going to take even longer for them to get back. And that's something that you and I and all these fans don't want. I don't want to speak for you, but I think it's safe to say that you don't want to see any more of this on Saturdays.
Yeah, I'm pretty tired of the losing for sure. I think looking at it, it's I feel like that's why it's important to keep Mickey on staff, because I feel like even with defensive, not just with guys he's recruited, but guys on the defensive side of the ball, I feel like he's going to be able to, say, hey, stick here, and the guys really like him. I feel like if you have Mickey back on the staff, you're not going to lose Malachi Coleman's commitment. You're probably going to get Casey Thompson back. So I don't know. That's one thing I really do think that they, I'm not saying that's make or break, but that's why like Dave Aranda probably would make a lot of sense. And we'll see, man. If I was him, I would take the Nebraska job over Baylor. I mean, I still think Nebraska can be one of the great jobs, of college football. Maybe not a top 5 job or a top 10 job, but it's definitely, I think, one of the top 15, 20 jobs in college football, like for sure. I mean, you've got the fan base, you've got the NIL resources, and hopefully that will help some with recruiting. Like I said, Nebraska needs to become more of a transfer portal program, and that's just the way it's going to be. But with the recruits that you are signing, and hopefully some more JUCOs too, because I think that that's one area that Nebraska could find some more talent that's really readily available to play. But I really think it's going to be essential to keep Mickey Joseph. Otherwise, I don't know what's going to happen to this recruiting class.
It's going to completely fall apart, and then we're going to be left scrambling, and then it will be a mess. But I also think it's important. You mentioned the NIL money and the support and the fans, and that's awesome. It really is all awesome, and that's definitely a huge part of it. But you also want to be able to sell success. I mean, guys like Tom Osborne, they are very important to our history and to Nebraska football fans. But these kids today, they don't care. They care about new facilities, recent success, instant playing time. And at some point, you need to be able to sell a winning product on the field if you want to get good recruits as well. I mean, right now, we can sell playing time, honestly, at a lot of positions, I think. But, at some point, you got to sell winning. And, it's just a crucial time, I think, for Nebraska football, because if they mess this up and we fall even further, I don't see how we could come back from it.
So I mean, I guess let's try to shift back to Illinois or the rest of the season
Yeah,
because
we went
there,
on a
I
tangent.
mean, there is 4 games left, right? I mean, so and Mickey, I wrote this yesterday. I do think he's on his last legs, but if you get a win this week, or I think this is the must win game because you're not beating Michigan, right? We've pretty much now. I mean, crazier things have happened, right? I mean, there was the miracle on ice in 1980, so maybe Nebraska can beat Michigan. I don't know, but I do know that anytime you say something can never happen, the universe has a way of making it happen. But I don't think that'll
So let's
happen
say
for
Nebraska
us.
can't win the next 4
Yeah,
games and see what happens.
no way in hell Nebraska's going to win the next one. I've tried this before though; it hasn't worked very well. It maybe only works in reverse. I'm not sure, but I mean, Minnesota's going to be tough, and PJ Fleck has kind of owned Nebraska a little bit the last couple of years, and
Quite easily too.
it's going to be a very similar brand of football to Illinois. A lot of Mo Ibrahim, a lot of running the football, and they do try to make their explosive plays too. And Nebraska has made Tanner Morgan look pretty damn good over the years. So we'll
It
see what
also helps when
happens.
you're a 17th year senior ready to go to battle against the freshman secondary
Yeah.
defense. But anyway,
What's the I saw that the spread was like double digits,
yeah, I want to say, hold on.
which is somewhat interesting because Nebraska was only a 7.5 point underdog against Illinois. So it is kind of interesting that I think
Maybe
it's
the
because I think, yeah. So right now, Nebraska is a 13.5 point underdog at home, which is that's a pretty big margin at home.
maybe because the odds makers know that we've made Tanner Morgan look like Tom Brady the past couple times he's faced us. So maybe they
I
know
think,
that.
I think a lot of it has to do with Casey's
Yep.
uncertainty, but I mean Minnesota just beat Rutgers 31-0, and we beat them 14-13. So I think there's that part of it too. Minnesota's just kind of had a really tough schedule. If you look at it, they had to play at Illinois, they had to play at Penn State. I'm trying to think of the other game that they at Purdue. I mean, so they had 3 really tough. Maybe no, they did have to play at Purdue. So they had 3 really tough road games in a short amount of time against basically the top 2 teams in the Big Ten West and a pretty good Penn State team. So even though their record isn't, I think they're only 4-4, or maybe they're 5-3 now. I think they're 5-3 actually, but they're a pretty good football team.
Someone in one of the group chats I was in suggested playing Richard Torres if things get bad on Saturday. So that's where we're at.
If he can throw the ball, I mean, Chuba Purdy I don't know what was up with that, man. Like, is the guy hurt? Did he forget how to throw the ball? I mean, I'm sorry for ripping on him so hard. I mean, I shouldn't be so quick to do that, if he is hurt or something. But goodness, he just did not.
He did not look right.
He didn't look like a good enough quarterback to play in the NAIA. Which is so. I mean, and I'm sorry, but I remember there was the Brewington pass, and it was like, and he could not. It was just like, dude, what is going on?
One of the things that Casey has done really well that I kind of realized on Saturday after seeing Chuba was he was very good at least trying to make a solid throw with people in his face. Once Chuba started seeing the entire defensive line just rush straight toward him, he kind of freaked out a little bit.
Yeah, he just started running like crazy. Yeah, which
I can't blame him. Honestly, it's easy for me to say as 300-pound guys aren't chasing me. I mean, it's easy for me to say, but
yeah, he could use some more. I mean, we'll see. He'll play better. I mean, and maybe I'll take back my transfer portal comment at some point. But at any rate, they do need to recruit. They need to recruit a lot of positions in the transfer portal. I mean, because Casey could be gone. I mean, Anthony Grant,
end, honestly.
Yeah, Anthony Grant could be gone. Trey Palmer's definitely going to be gone, and maybe Marcus Washington. Marcus Washington probably would be back if he has more eligibility, but
especially if Casey comes back.
Yeah, but Trey Palmer's definitely not coming back. I just don't see why he would. When he's having the best year that he's had, he has a chance to get drafted. It just makes too much sense. So it's you could be looking at if those three guys all leave, though, if Casey just decides, I'll take my chances at the NFL, even though I don't think he's probably going to get drafted, but I mean, he could get signed as a rookie free agent. If they decide to take their chance or transfer somewhere else, I mean, that would be a tough situation to be in because I don't know if there's anybody. And I mean, I guess I'll correct myself at running back because they've got AJ Allen, assuming he comes back next year.
Ooh, I
But
don't know about that one. I don't know.
we'll see. I
I
think if Applewhite's still here, I feel like he'll probably be here, but we'll see.
I would also take a heavy look at the tight end position because yes, we have three, but none of them have played meaningful. I don't want to say meaningful snaps, but extended snaps to where I say, okay, he's a starter. Because Vokalek's a senior, right, or is he a junior?
Yeah, he's a senior, so
All
he'll
right.
be gone, and we'll see if Fedoni can play. I mean, the spring will be big for him, but yeah, I do think you need somebody else to come in there. And
The thing about tight ends, honestly, though, and I hate to say this, but once the injuries start to kind of pile up, it's kind of hard for them to get back to where they were or even get consistent playing time on the field. And I really hope that that's not the case. But having managed a college football team, yes, it was Division III, but some of our guys, some of the tight ends, once the injuries started stacking up, it was hard for them to get back, and they lost, and they lost some of that explosiveness. So I just hope. I'm not wishing bad or writing them off, but I just hope they can make something meaningful because all three showed tremendous promise, and so far it's unfortunately not gone the way that anybody has wanted it to.
yeah, and Nebraska needs to get. I think they need to invest a little bit more in some blocking style, tight ends. They need to get a better
Strength and
run.
conditioning coach, that's a good investment right there.
Well,
I
yeah,
think.
that too, and they need to get some better run schemes.
Yeah.
The run game just has not been really outside of a couple of games against Northwestern, Georgia Southern, and even Indiana. I mean, I know Anthony Grant got 100 yards, but the rushing game wasn't all that effective. He had over 60 on Saturday, which wasn't bad, but there was just too many times where he could have, it seemed like he could have got 15 and he wound up getting like 8 or 9 because he was trying to get 60, which I mean, I guess I understand that because he probably thought, well, unless I break a touchdown run, we're not going to score, which turned out probably to be true. But I don't know, it's just a mess. And I don't know, I had it's crazy how quickly things just fall apart because after the Vokalek touchdown, you're like, all right, we got a chance. And then they get a stop, get the ball back, and then within like 5 minutes, the whole game is basically over.
Yeah, and it's just credit to Illinois. I mean, they played sound and they didn't kind of panic when they were down or when they faced adversity. They just stuck to their game plan and it worked. And I think this is a Nebraska team that, surprise, surprise, doesn't know how to win either. So I'm we could have had a chance to win this game, but yet there were so many things that were glaring errors or mistakes or areas that we just needed to be better at, and we couldn't. I mean, it was kind of a mixed bag because you kind of said pre-show, there were a lot of positives, and I was looking at it more from a negative perspective, but it was a balance of both, and neither was too impressive.
Yeah, and I mean, there probably weren't a ton of positives, but I think to start the game, there was some. I mean, they got they got some stops. The defense was able to at least get one turnover. They held Illinois under 400 yards. I mean, Chase Brown did get like 147 rushing or whatever it was, but he only
It felt
averaged.
like we contained him well. Honestly.
Yeah, he averaged less than 5 yards a carry. So I mean, the defense, I thought, going into that game, if you told me, hey, they're going to hold Illinois under 400 yards and Chase Brown under like 150, I would have thought, okay, we're going to have a chance. But then if you say that, you lose your quarterback and you turn it over 4 times, well, that's why you lost by 17 points because you just can't do that stuff and try to win games. And we've said that about Casey before. I mean, look, he did get hurt and that was, unfortunate, but he also made 2 huge mistakes before he got hurt. I mean, just I mean, they had on the first drive they had points on the board. They would have had points on the board, and he throws just a bad football and gets intercepted. And then, I mean, it's frustrating because it just seems like even the best players like Casey are still just constantly, just making game killing mistakes. I mean, you look at the Purdue game. If he hits Alante Brown on that touchdown, if he doesn't throw the interception to Trey Palmer, who looked open on that play down the field, I mean, if he hits a throw there, I mean, maybe Nebraska wins that game. And sometimes it really is as simple as, getting a better quarterback. And I know that makes it sound really easy, but, when you have a really good guy back there, it makes your entire team better. And then I love Casey. He's played really hard. He's been a warrior, but he's not that dude, so to speak.
Who is? Because it sure isn't on this roster right now.
Yeah, no, I mean there isn't one on the roster, and Nebraska hasn't had one since Taylor Martinez. Honestly, I mean, and everybody wants to sit there and say that Adrian Martinez has looked so great. Well, his backup at Kansas State looked even better last week. I don't know if anybody. I mean, Will Howard threw almost.
I didn't see that one in the
yards.
Facebook groups. Interestingly enough, that was interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't see that one, but boy, when Adrian Martinez has a good game, it's like a flood of posts. Same thing with Scott Frost. Leave that shit alone. This is why we're stuck in the past so much, because we can't let things go.
Yeah, I wonder if he is going to play anymore though, because that other guy was pretty good. But yeah, I mean, people I think are still going to be, Scott Frost is going to be talked about for a long time, just because he was a player, and it'll be interesting to see how that's handled in the future. It wouldn't surprise me if he's like on Chip Kelly's staff next year or something. That seems like a smart move for him to try to get back into the coaching ranks. And as an offensive coordinator,
bit. Yeah, I was just about to say I miss his play calling a little bit, because I like, when Smothers was in, there was some quarterback runs that I really kind of liked, and the announcers mentioned that Nebraska has put together a couple of packages for Smothers. Quarterback runs. I don't like the run like the game, but there is a place and time for those quarterback runs.
Yeah, and I mean, Scott was a good play caller. I think he does run. He is a good offensive coordinator, and he'll, like I said, maybe he'll learn from this Nebraska experience. And I'm sure, if he wants to be head coach again, and probably will get another opportunity. I mean, Lane Kiffin got another chance. I mean, Steve Sarkisian got another chance, and he got fired for basically drinking on the job. So I mean, if you can prove yourself, you'll get another opportunity. So I mean, if he does really well as an offensive coordinator, he'll get another head coaching job. It might not be at a Power 5 school, but maybe it will be. Who knows? But it's not. It didn't work out at Nebraska, and but it is going to be hard for people to forget that. But they just need to get the next head coach right.
Also, just real quick before I forget, I thought the offensive tempo on Saturday was still too fast. The defense was out there most of the first quarter, and they just needed to slow it down a little bit. I understand, Illinois was kind of pressuring Casey Thompson, and the running game wasn't going, but at least let the clock drain at like 9 seconds or do something just to at least give the defense some rest. I don't agree with the fast tempo. It's kind of interesting because Mark Whipple is such a polarizing coordinator. I mean, the offense is scoring, and they are putting up points on the board. I mean, there's no denying that, and they have made a fun zone. There's no doubt that this offense is doing well, but yet there are just some things that just don't seem right to me.
Yeah, well, I think he's trying. He's got a coach to his personnel. He's trying to run this system, and it's like you don't have Kenny Pickett in the team you had last year. So I mean, I feel like he has done a good. I feel like he's a good play caller, but I don't feel like he's done a good job of evaluating what he actually has to work with. Case in point, the offensive line, and he just continues. I mean, he has done a little bit more, but I see so many times where it's like empty, zero protection, or you've got one back chipping or one tight end. It's like, dude, you need more than one guy. And this, so at any rate, I don't think Mark Whipple's going to be calling the plays next year, no matter who the head coach is.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's going to be a health thing for him, and quite honestly,
they'll say it's health, but if not, he would have got fired probably. I just don't think he's done a great job.
I mean, yeah, there is that, but I do think with him it's a little bit of health, because honestly, I think this entire coaching Scott Frost, and now that he's no longer there, you're going to start to see some of the pieces kind of go away a little bit, because I think if Scott Frost had won, then maybe a lot of them would stay. I think Vicky's going to stay no matter who the coach is or if he's the coach or whatever. But I think everybody kind of, you know, came to Nebraska to try and help Scott Frost save the program. And now that hasn't worked, at least for this year, then I think they're all going to kind of go their separate ways.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what happens. I mean, there's a lot up in the air, and we'll start back with Minnesota this week, but we're coming up on our hour of
Basketball.
streaming. Yeah, basketball lost to Colorado in the exhibition yesterday, but we'll have some more on that coming up as the season starts, I think, November 7th
Next Monday.
Maine.
Next Monday.
So, it'll be coming up very quickly. And, as we said, folks, if you are, watching this content, make sure that you subscribe to our channel, like and comment on the videos. We'll have some more stuff breaking down Minnesota later in the week, with some predictions and keys as the Huskers try to, get back into bowl contention. They definitely are going to need to win this game if they want to get to a bowl game. So once again, I'm Chris Peterson of HuskerBigRed.com. You can find more Husker content there. You can also check out thegreatcornholio.org, which is published by Danny Gillette here. So check out both of our sites for a lot of Nebraska content. Like the videos and subscribe here at our YouTube channel. And as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you soon. Hopefully the week gets a little better.